I'm back. No, I'm not. This is a stopgap video to talk about Hitman 3 because it's only really come to light in the past couple of days that I wanted to make this video, and I wanted to put it out on YouTube while Hitman 3 is still relatively new. It's going to be a review of Hitman 3 in terms of an autistic person from an autistic point of view. So I will be back on my hiatus after this video and hopefully be back in a few weeks, maybe a month or two. And this game actually has helped me, you know, relax, reduce stress, reduce anxiety, and feel just a little bit happier. So that's what I wanted to talk about because it's happened in the past couple of days. But before we get into Hitman 3 itself, I kind of have to discuss a little bit about autism and why this game is so important to me as an autistic person. So one of the things that people think autism is, you know, the stigma, the stereotype is that we can't feel feelings, that we are robots, that we have no emotions, which is completely the opposite of what the truth is. And the truth is that we actually feel emotions, stress, anger, rage, depression, happiness, anything positive or negative. We feel those emotions on a much more deeper, impactful level than most neurotypical people do. It's just that for a lot of autistic people, we don't have the visceral expressions or the appropriate way to express those emotions to the public. So you see us as just this stone-faced, emotionless person when realistically inside we're being torn apart by those emotions. And what that can lead to is over time in any walk of life, in any form of anxiety and stress, that stress and anxiety builds and builds and builds and builds. And then eventually we have what is called an autistic meltdown. Most people will think that's like a kid throwing a tantrum on the floor and slapping the floor and screaming, which is true for some autistic people. But like myself, what I do is I kind of isolate myself from the world. I don't talk to anybody. And that is my version of an autistic meltdown. But I also have had autistic meltdowns where my emotions have bubbled up and exploded. And I've been inconsolable, crying, angry, confused, fearful. You know, all those emotions all at once because they've been building up over time. Now, the reason why I talk about that is gaming is obviously a massive part of my life. Since I was 11, 12 years old, I have sat and played video games pretty much every day since. And over time, games can cause you stress and anxiety if you're playing them and playing them and playing them. Now, before I was diagnosed a few years back, I never realized gaming was having such an impact on my mental health. Yeah, I might get angry at a game, I might dislike a game, but that isn't what I'm talking about. Like over time, when you play a game, like the sounds in a game, the visuals in a game, you know, just the general gameplay mechanics can affect autistic traits. And then, like with Destiny 2 and Destiny, over time, my stress and anxiety was building and building and building. And because I had no ways to cope because I was undiagnosed, that led me to leaving YouTube because everything had built up to the point where I exploded and had massive autistic meltdown and left my channel because that's what had happened over several years of being anxious and stressed 24/7 and not even realizing that I was. That's the autistic journey. That's what happens. So gaming is extremely important for me, and I need to find games that I like to play that actually agree with my autistic traits, and Hitman 3 is one of those games. And the reason why I want to make this video is to explain from a point of view that's different to your own about, you know, some people just play a game like, oh, this isn't a game for me. I don't like it. It's crap. It's terrible. It's awful. But for me, I have to look at things a little bit more intricately because while I look at a game in general and the gameplay mechanics don't really agree with me, but everything else does, that changes how I feel about that game because it's not just that instant reaction of this game's terrible. It's this game isn't for me right now, but if I play it more, learn how it affects my autistic traits, then I will grow to like it and I'll grow to love the game and play it every single day. That's the difference for me. And I've been exploring a lot of games recently and found quite a few games actually that I really enjoy. Path of Exiles, never thought I'd ever play a game of that style. Cannot put it down now because it just agrees with me and my autistic traits. So why Hitman 3? There's a lot here to unpack, but I'm going to try and keep it as quick and easy and fast as possible so that this video doesn't go on for 45 minutes, because believe me, it could very easily go on for 45 minutes. First and foremost, I have to say the UI. You know, the menu screen, everything is there. It's big, it's bold, it's in your face, you know, so you don't have to really search and look for things that you want to find. Everything is just right there on the front screen as soon as you sign on to the game. Now, a lot of autistic people, you know, they like pictures, they like other ways of communication to garner information from something instead of just written text or stuff like that. And Hitman just has a perfect UI where it's all symmetrical, it's all just set out and laid out perfectly, it's easy to navigate and easy to find things that you want to find. And believe it or not, that's actually quite rare in video games right now. Like there's, for instance, Path of Exiles is one of the complaints I do have with it. Their like UI system just isn't for me. It's too complex, too much information, too much stuff on screen, and Hitman's just perfect. Like it's just there, perfect. Another game, for instance, is Fall Guys. Fall Guys is very simple, very basic, but has all the information there ready to go. And Hitman just does it really, really well. You know, all the challenges and stuff are easy to find, which is incredible because the game is all about those challenges and killing people in different ways and doing specific things in each map. And it's very easy to find out, well, not find out what you have to do, but you know, the idea of the challenge, and then you go into the game and figure out how to do those challenges. And talking about the gameplay, you know, the story's short, and that's great for someone who is autistic. We don't want a long-lasting game when it comes to a single-player game anyway. You know, we want something that works, that is fast, that is quick, so that the game doesn't become too repetitive and boring. And Hitman is just that perfect amount of story where you can really, really get stuck into it, complete it in a couple of days, and feel great about the game. And I gotta say, the gameplay, the story, the graphics, everything is just incredible anyway. So it's a charm to play as it is, but as an autistic person, to have that, to know that the game's that short. And also, you know, when you're on the UI shows you how many missions there are, so you know going into the game how much time you have to put into this game, and that makes me and my autistic traits happy, because I don't have to be anxious about, oh, how long is this going to take me to complete? Is it going to take 2 weeks? You know, I know how long it's going to take, and that is incredible because games don't do that. But then you also have choice and options, you know, so it allows me to explore my intellect on going into a mission, walking around, finding everything, doing all the exploration stuff, doing all the different challenges, you know, just having a go, just walking around and looking at things too. You know, this game is just excellent to get lost in, you know, so you have this completely rigid storyline that's short, easy, and attainable. And then you can just put the game on whenever you want and just play it for 6 hours straight, just walking around doing anything you want. And that's the charm of Hitman. That's why Hitman games are so popular, because there's so much things to do in each level in different ways that it just becomes very, very, I don't know, it evokes positive information from my autistic traits. And a lot of the times that I've been playing Hitman, I've actually physically been smiling, and that isn't something I do very often off camera anyway, at least in my real life. Most of the time I'm very stone-faced, and I've caught myself smiling because the game makes me happy. You know, the ridiculous things like the golf ball explosion kills, you know, while it's fun and setting it up and the challenge of figuring it out and how to do it, when it happens, it's just so just good. It just feels so good, and it makes me so happy. So, you know, the game design of like all these different intricate challenges, which are fun to do, and, you know, can be funny, can be serious, can be skillful, challenging, can be silly, can be stupid. You know, there's all this stuff that just works. It just all comes together perfectly for someone who is autistic, at least how it affects me and my autism anyway. Now, a lot of autistic people like myself have sensitivity to various senses. So for me, sight and sound are very, very important for me to be able to control in my life. So like when I go outside, I am hypersensitive to like traffic noises, to children on buses, to children in schools, you know, all that loud noise around me, because while it's expected noise, it's not something that I'm happy with because it affects me and causes me anxiety and stress. So when I go out, I usually wear headphones and play music because that's my chosen music. I have control over that. So I don't have to hear expected sounds, which is too much, or even unexpected sounds like a car flying past and bibbing their horn. You know, that can cause debilitating stress and anxiety for people who are autistic. And things like that translate into gameplay. Like when I play certain games, there's a lot of things on screen, so it becomes very chaotic for me to look at. And then it causes me like pain behind my eyes and like a fiery hot feeling behind my eyes, which then causes me headaches. And then my stress and anxiety start to rise. And after a couple of hours of playing a game that's causing me that, obviously it becomes devastating to my mental health to be able to play that game. And the same thing with sound. Sound design is very important, and not just like the music that plays, because, you know, Destiny is incredible for music, but all the rest of the sounds for me cause me anxiety and stress because they're just off tone, out of place for how my brain works and how my body works. But Hitman just has it perfectly. Even in places like Dubai, where all the amount of people on screen in the main hallway is just overwhelming, they do it so well. Animations are different, everyone's unique, everyone looks different. The talking sounds isn't too loud, it's just enough where it's like, oh, I feel immersed in this gameplay, but it's not too distracting and too stressful and anxiety filled for me. And even though places like Dubai are quite bright, which is what I'm sensitive to with my sight, like sunlight outside, I absolutely hate. But in this game, even though it's super bright in Dubai and some of the other maps, it's subtle in the same way as well. They've done a really, really good job of making everything in this game immersive but subtle. And what that allows me to do is play the game at my own pace. Now, I know that sounds strange because everyone plays the game at their own pace, but for someone who's autistic, it is extremely, extremely important to have control over those aspects of a game. Whereas other people, it doesn't affect them, so they don't care about it. They don't even know that that's a thing for autistic people. Not that they should know that because they're not autistic themselves, but you know, that has a real negative impact for autism, for me, for myself, and how it affects me. So to have all of these things in this game on every single level of game development all come together and fit perfectly to make me be able to play the game for 6 hours straight if I like, for 10 minutes to run one mission, to speed running and practicing, to doing the challenges and assassinations, to exploring. Everything is absolutely perfect for my autistic traits. And I genuinely can't find a fault about the game at all. Like at all, really just cannot. And that for me is the most impressive thing about the game, especially as a self-aware autistic person now and knowing what affects me and how things affect me. I obviously hyper focus on these things when I introduce something new to my life. And when I did the same with Hitman, you know, when I started playing it, I was very worried, very stressed out about how the game was going to affect me. And I think within the first hour, I just pretty much forgot that I was autistic, which sounds crazy, I know, but you can't really, it's one of those things where you can't feel what I'm feeling or ever possibly understand what I'm feeling. And then when I say it, it sounds so ridiculous that people will think, well, that makes no sense. That's the smallest, most insignificant thing. But for someone with autism, that is everything, absolutely everything. I love this game. The game developers have done an incredible job. Even if they didn't mean to make it perfect for autistic people or myself who has autism, they have done a really good job at designing this game from top to bottom. If you haven't played it yet, I highly suggest that you do, even just for the hilarious assassination kills. Trust me, they are great. And I guess that's what I wanted to talk about. You know, I've done reviews before, I've spoken about autism before, but they've been separate entities, and I wanted to bring this together because over the past couple of days, obviously I've been playing Hitman 3 off camera, and I've started to realize just how important that game is for positive mental health for myself, and I wanted to share it with absolutely anybody who will watch. So yeah, that's it. I'll be back on my hiatus and my break. If you want to follow me on Twitter, link is in the video description, all that kind of good stuff. Thank you for watching. I've been easynow. You guys have been awesome.